One imagines that your experience with the controversies around the linguistics and legislation in Canada must have felt like one of those plunges into the depths on some level, would you say? Did you feel a sense of personal tragedy and fear and a concern about consequence, or that there may be no way back, that it could represent a kind of death? Or did it indeed represent a kind of death for you, for one for which you are subsequently grateful?
Well, I would say for the first 4 months, when the political scandal broke, it was very unsettling for a variety of reasons. The first was that my occupation as a clinical psychologist and as a professor was definitely in doubt. I mean, the university sent me 2 warning letters, and that's a standard HR procedure. Usually you get 3, right? The third warning is stop, or their consequences won't be good. If you work in human resources, you have to, especially if you're going to go after someone with tenure, you have to document their misbehavior. You have to provide them with warnings. You have to tell them how they could get back on the right track. And then if you have documented refusal to comply with the warnings, then they have grounds for dismissal. So we're very worried about that.
You were close to to some kind of personal or professional annihilation, or certainly damage. Now, for people, just in case on the off chance that there are people that are unaware of the details, I'll say it as I understand it, and then you can tell me how I've got it wrong. The government changed the law saying that there are neutral nouns that mandatorily would be applied to people identified as transgender. You said that is an imposition on freedom of speech, whilst I would make a decision whether or not I would. If I was meeting a transgender person, I would talk to them how they wanted to be talked to. The fact that you're making it law is an impediment on the freedom of speech, and then it kicked off.
Yeah, that's a good summary of it. Yeah, I would say. I mean, my sense, there were 2 things I objected to. One was that the government, for the first time in the history of Canada, and really in a move that was unprecedented in English common law, under English common law, actually mandated the content of voluntary speech. And I thought, I don't care what your excuse is for doing that. That's no-go zone as far as I'm concerned. That's not happening.
Even though, right, this is what it seems to me like, sort of, help me to understand this, right? Because what I'm always interested in, I think, is power and where power is. Yeah. And I subsequently looked at what your views are towards sort of post-structuralist and the alt-left, and a lot of things I think, yeah, you're right. That I agree with that. But the reason I think that the sort of the controversy had fuel on both sides, the reason it had an engine on the other side, is because it seems that, and indeed having watched other interviews and the objections that other interviewers have presented to you, it seems to me that a transgender person is in a position of vulnerability. But you're saying this is not about transgender. This is about language and it's about oppression. That's what you're saying.
Well, that was my claim, is that this wasn't about transgenderism at all, and I would
about
say,
which you got no strong view, I'm guessing, or
I don't have the sort of strong view that I would think I was sufficiently qualified to make political statements about.
Yeah, like Chappelle goes, I don't understand it, but it's not my...
Well, I basically look at the research, and I mean, the research for transgendered kids is quite clear, is that most of them desist by the time they're 18. And I'm basically guided by...
Where's this in Scandinavia, where they check that stuff out?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, people have criticized that research, like all research, but it's the best research that's been done on the topic. But the other problem was with the legislation was that I felt that it was an attempt by the radical left to gain the linguistic territory and to define the terms of the debate. And I thought that was very dangerous. So I was objecting to that as well.
Feel you. Now, the thing that I'm interested in here, Jordan, is I don't feel like the radical left is a very powerful group. Am I being naive here? I mean, possibly in the world of academia, particularly, I feel like they are sort of representative of a coalition built around identity politics, issues that would seem particularly important to people. Like, my general view is, if you identify something, cool, no problem, it's none of my business. That's basically my opinion. I'll call you what you want me to call you. I'm happy that you're speaking to me. But do you see a sort of the sort of extreme left or as a powerful organisation?
Certainly in the universities.
So they can get what done? They could, for example, they could get that legislation passed.
Yes, that. And I think the situation is different in the US than it is in other countries. I think the political situation in the US is actually more balanced than it is in most Western countries, because I would say the left, the radical left, has a pretty decent hold on a number of institutions, and first and foremost of those would be the universities. But then the conservatives, aren't without power in the United States, because they occupy most of the elected positions now.
Do you?
But it's not the case.
You didn't, frankly, have the balls to put country before party.